And we're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lounge. I'm Anthony Irwin, as always, joined post game by Raj Chapalu. Raj, I think the first question that's on everybody's mind after that one, the Lakers lose 116 to 99 in that one. Obviously, the first question that everybody needs to know about is, did you follow my instructions? Did you learn about Leroy Jenkins? Did you watch the video in its entirety?
Yes, I did, and so I still don't kind of get it. I mean, I understand, I understand conceptually what happened, but yeah, I went and watched, and I guess I learned a new thing. Is that really something everyone knows? Like, I've never
Yeah.
heard that clip in my life. I've heard of World of Warcraft, like that was been in my vocabulary before, but I've never seen that video. So yes, Leroy Jenkins is now. I'll try to use it in in whatever context I can going forward. I'll add
I
that to my metaphors and all that.
I love the idea of like you walking around hearing somebody like across the room say Leroy Jenkins and then just like, I get it now. I know what you're talking about. How about
Right.
that? Because
I'm part of the joke
I
now.
would say, in the Avengers movie, Captain America goes like, I get that reference, but I don't think you
Mm,
get that reference.
no.
So
There's too many of
oh
those
man.
heroes. Way too many. Captain America. They all have their own movies, which is like, where do you have the time to go watch everyone's own movie? Someone's like, yeah, there's an Ant-Man movie. There's an
Multiple
Ant-Man movie.
movies per those characters actually. Like most of those
But yeah,
characters get
see,
like 3 movies.
yeah, but see, I can just go watch Infinity War and they're all in one. Like I don't even need to go watch 10, 30 movies. They're all in the same movie. Why would
You
I need
sound
to
like my
go?
Mexican mom who didn't want to pay for tickets when I was in like high school. It's just like, wait, you're telling me they're all going to be in the same place at the same time, and you want $15 every other fucking month to go watch these movies? So, congrats
Yeah.
on the full immigrant parent transformation from Raj.
Yes.
All right. I
Make my
guess we should
parents
talk
proud.
about this game. Do you want to talk about this game? I don't really want to talk about this because I know I'm going to get rallied. I'm going to get riled up. I'm going to get pissed.
Okay.
I'm going to say some stuff. You are in the unfortunate spot that Harrison found himself in far too often over our respective times covering this team together. The Lakers
Mhm.
again lose 116 to 99. They did get the game to within 1 point. Then Darvin Ham decides that's a good time in the middle of a run there
Ah,
to sit Anthony Davis. Memphis promptly goes on a 23 bajillion to 0 run. That was not cut at all in half by any timeout. Nothing to stem the tide whatsoever. It was funny. I was tweeting about it, when the Lakers were down by like 24, right? I think the
mhm.
lead got up to like 24. And I was just like telling Jen, I was like, I can't believe Darvin never called timeout. I even tweeted, like, if the Lakers cut it to 10, right? I would imagine Jenkins would call timeout then to stem that tide, to stop the momentum, to get everybody back focused on the shit that they need to do to avoid another 10-0 run that would bring the Lakers right back into the game. Not even 6 points later, we
No.
we got a Jenkins timeout after an Austin Reeves 3-pointer, and the Lakers momentum was done there. They did go. I think they continued to run a little bit, but you know who actually stopped the run? It's an just outright was Darvin. Darvin sits LeBron James with 5 minutes to go as the Lakers cut a 24-point lead down to 14
Yeah.
and leaves Anthony Davis in the game. So he's like white flag, kinda like white gray flag. How about that? Like
I
pale
feel
gray,
yeah,
eggshell white flag.
I feel bad that that Lonnie Walker is like the picture of the white flag now. You know what I mean? So he put
Yeah,
Lonnie Walker for LeBron, and yeah, I was like, okay, I guess we're making this run with Lonnie Walker and Anthony Davis coming
yeah.
back. So yeah,
I
that
just
was rough.
nothing from this game I have not been the biggest Darvin Ham fan. I think he's really good at the intangible stuff, keeping guys motivated and keep them playing hard, right? I think he's very good with that stuff. But I don't trust this guy to like take a fast food order, let
Oh
alone like
no.
navigate a playoff game here. Tonight was a disaster, man. Like this was a disastrous coaching effort. Whether you want to talk about Rui's minutes in the first half, he played 5 minutes in the first half. Some of that was foul trouble, but also he was really interested in getting Troy Brown going. It was just like we were going to spoon feed them. Troy Brown is going to be the difference in this game. It was maddening to watch this, and you're watching it there on playback.
Hmm.
How many times were you and I think you and Shub and was Aaron doing the show too?
Yeah, yes. So Aaron came for the second half, but so I'm usually more of a apologist for Ham. I have a little bit more like I have sympathy for how tough it is, but like that's not a rookie mistake thing. Like he's been around the league too much, like to know runs and to feel not
Yeah,
to feel how a game is going and all that hard. So the timeouts thing, we get like killed at the end of quarters, right? For some
yeah.
reason, and for some reason, like he pushes these end of quarters to like 3-4 minutes. So he's like, well, the quarter's about to end, right? And then like
Yeah.
that's the rationale I'm thinking that he goes to. But like it's hard for me, Anthony, to think about anything else in this game because that whole first half kind of went as I thought it would. Memphis went up 10 early. They had
Hmm.
35 in the first quarter. Desmond Bain got loose off the ball screens, and we didn't really send AD up high. And he hit a bunch of tough shots. Ja got a little bit going in transition, but I was like, okay, first half went okay. You're down 9. You come all the way back, roaring back. Like there's always a point in an elimination game where the team that's about to be eliminated, there's a point of folding, right? There's a point where like,
Yeah.
oh crap, like
Yeah.
we might be going home. This might be my last game, and we
Crowd
put
felt
that
it.
fear. Crowd felt it. Jaw felt it. Bane, you could see them get tight. We cut it to 1. All that hard work, 9-1 on a run. And then we had the huge lineup. We had Dennis, Rui, LeBron, and AD all on the floor. I was like, wow, going big. Like we went big, huge. We were massive.
Oh my gosh, look at that. It worked. I've only been
And we
begging it since they were winning these games handily, but sure.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so we cut the lead to 1, and then AD goes out for Troy Brown, and I'm like, wait, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah.
And right away, I
8-0 run.
forgot who took. Yeah, I forgot who took the floater. I think Dennis took the floater. Went the other way. They scored, and then they got a 3 by Desmond Bain, and then it went to 8. And people are gonna put up the 28-2 run. To me, that 1-10, that was game. You could see the body language. You
Yeah.
could see how they were walking up the floor. Memphis got their groove back, excitement back, and then Ja just went to the basket on every time because LeBron and Rui were the only backline people with Jackson on the floor. That was the game, and this plus minus to me, Anthony, which is a flawed stat for sure. But you look at the starters. AD finishes a +6 in a game we lose by 18. That we're down 24 in the second half. D'Lo a +0. Had that third quarter just barrage, and then didn't really do much after. But still, you could tell where the run was. Austin finishes a +5. Vando a
Yeah.
+2.
Yep.
Austin finishes a +5 in 40 minutes. You lose the game by 17. In the 8
Yeah.
in the 8 minutes, you get outscored. So I don't even know what else to vote. Like I don't really like lambasting Ham for subs all the time, but I think
Ham-basting
that
him?
one, yeah, Ham, yes, yeah, I couldn't pull that off. I thought I said the word wrong. I was like, oh,
Yeah, no, one, like you said, it's important to contextualize. Coaching in the playoffs is really difficult, right?
for sure.
These are the best teams, and you get multiple games to see every pitch that you throw. To like, I used to I used to box, and I could just the third fight in a boxing trilogy is always the best one because these fighters know each other's punches. They always like they've probably in order to get to the trilogy they've split, right. So you have both guys who've gotten punched in the face and they know the counters to getting punched in the face and all this stuff. And it's fascinating to watch that unfold in that like hand to hand kind of approach. And in basketball and baseball, it's the same. Hockey, same thing, right? Where these teams they kind of figure each other out. They get the opportunity to get all this tape, and study all of the tape, and they get to see all of these players, like the spots that they're comfortable with on the court, the spots that they're not. The Lakers tonight were just like actively walking away from Dylan Brooks while he was shooting it. Reggie Miller at one point called it disrespectful. So like that's the kind of thing that you see in a 7-game series.
Yeah.
Like you start it, you're like, yeah, we don't think we need to guard this guy. But by the time you get to game 5, game 6, game 7, God hoping it doesn't get to game 7, but by the time you get to game 5, game 6, that's when teams figure out like, oh, that guy self check. Like, no, we don't have to guard him at all. Right. And you know, in this one, like I really feel like I was texting back and forth with a few people, but one of the points made in one of those conversations was like, I really feel like Jenkins knows at the end of quarters, the Grizzlies are probably going to go on a run, right? Like if he can almost plan on it now, and he knows that if they go on that run, no counter is coming. He's been waiting. I would imagine, like, I can only imagine being an assistant coach on Memphis's bench, right? Because you're just looking at each other like, they're not going to call. They're not going to call timeout. Like we're still going. You're going to let us keep going here. Yeah. All right. Well, shit. We'll just keep going, I guess. It reminds me of the Chick Hearn video I've been trying to get everybody to watch here forever, where the Lakers, I think, started a first quarter up 40-3 or 41-3 or something like that. And Chick Hearn is like yelling down at Sacramento's coach, I think you need a sub. Coach, call timeout. You know, and that's like every single Lakers fan who has watched basketball before tonight, I would imagine, sitting there in the living rooms or sitting there like in the arena probably. Darvin, a timeout maybe. A sub. Not that one. It was legitimately one of the worst coach games I have ever seen. Not a single thing that he did today. I take that back. They started blitzing Desmond Bane right. in pick and roll, and that like kind of got some of the momentum started. And I think that was another interesting one, was that the Lakers chose to go play defense in the second half in front of their bench, right? Which is a smart thing to do on the road, right? Because now you can call out, you know, reads and matchups and stuff right there in front of you. But beyond that, man, it was a disaster. We saw 3 different Malik Beasley stints before garbage time. You know, I joked before. I joked after last game that like Jeannie would make the call and be like, "Hey, you know, we can get an extra home game here." I just a heads up, you know. Maybe Ham's just a really good employee, you know.
He just calls Adam Silver like, "What? You're asking these questions? This is my job. Good for me."
Yeah. No, the Lakers call Adam Silver. Hey, is it possible to put Rui in foul trouble? What?
The foul trouble thing was so strange. He only had 2, right? And they had the second foul was kind of weak. It was like on a reach on Desmond Bane, like not even a reach, kind of like a bump, right? That like
jaw dribbled like into his chest, and he was just kind of like standing there.
That was the first one, and then the second one was the really bad one on Bane, where Bane drove, and it was like a little bump, and Bane's yelling like "Hey" on every single drive.
Yeah,
like he got that call, but Jenkins is doing, he's doing the smart thing. He knows our sub patterns now, which are way too rigid. Like they just like LeBron comes out with 5 minutes left. I'm like, we're down 8. Like, can we like move this, move it a little bit ahead? But no. So our sub patterns are very rigid, and he's like, I'm keeping Jackson and Ja in the game. And Darvin Ham's like, well, it's time for 80 to come out, I guess. And so in the like in those
Jackson and Ja are watching 80 walk off the court, like, bye.
And so LeBron was terrible, I thought, tonight as well. He was awful.
He was a bad game.
Not aside even from his 5 for 17, I thought his effort on the rebounds, defensively, watching a lot of balls go up where it was like 80, defensively rebounding against 2 or 3 people. But no, it's LeBron, Rui, and we went to this lineup, Anthony. It was, I couldn't believe it. Dennis, Beasley, Troy, Rui, and LeBron.
Yeah,
that's fatal in any like real situation. That's
on the road against a desperate team.
Not just that, against Jackson and Ja on the floor. And that's when the lead ballooned to like, I think before the half it was like 15 or 16, and then we cut it to 9, right? So it was like 16 or 17. It went to 17. Dylan Brooks hit a 3 to put them up 17, and then we put our real players, our stars, not real, our starters back in, and we cut the lead back down to 9. I was like, oh, we're in a good spot. LeBron's played terrible
Yeah,
on the road. Like no one showed up other than AD and Austin. And you're down 9, and then you start the third quarter. D'Lo gives you a
really
gift,
well.
just a two threes in transition, a little mid-range pull up. You cut it to 1, and then you throw away everything you did by taking Anthony Davis out. And then Ja just had a foray to the rim. So I don't know what else to take from that. Like that's kind of the game, really. Like
Yeah.
AD being out in that position, I thought killed us, especially with the way LeBron was shooting. He was 1 for 9 tonight from 3.
AD
Like,
played
damn.
35 minutes and sat the final 2, right? Would have played 37 if not for the garbage time pool. Um,
Well,
Having AD not on schedule to play 40 minutes is fucking disgraceful.
wait, really, really quick, because I've seen people say, well, maybe it was the hip or the back, the tailbone. He felt he checked back in 2 minutes later. It
Yeah.
was like Ham realized it was a mistake. It was two
Yeah.
minutes in. It was 2 minutes in game time. He was at the scores table within 90 seconds. I'm like,
Yeah.
what was the point of that? That was obviously like you galaxy brained it, as the kids
Genie made
say.
the call.
Oh man, yes. They have service in Memphis, but uh, that hurts.
Well, you wonder why like Darvin's hands are in his pockets so long. He's got a beeper right there, and it's just like he checks it. All right, guys, sorry. AD, you got to come out, bud. We got to get. We need that playoff revenue. Hey, if you guys want to use your exception this year, we got. We need an extra home game in the playoffs. It is kind of crazy how big a factor or like a legitimate adjustment that the Lakers organizationally can make is sewing Darvin Ham's pockets closed, right? Like that's like it's it's a real thing that the Lakers can do here. I think to maybe get him to do something. Because like, all right, so the defense of Darvin not not calling timeouts, excuse me, is basically that like it was a Phil Jackson approach. You coach in practice, you coach in the preparation stages, and then you get to the game, and like outside of something astronomical, which I would argue a 20-point run is pretty astronomical, but like
It's
still,
close. Yeah.
like that's that outside of that, generally speaking, Phil would coach pretty hands off, right? And the thing about Phil though, and this was the case in Chicago and in LA twice, was that he was very adamant about continuity, right? He always had his holdovers. He always had his kind of vets that knew the culture, that knew the approach that he wanted to take. And that team was so could be put on autopilot and could still self correct. This team has been together for 2 months, and
Yeah.
in those 2 months, LeBron missed like 3 weeks. Like there isn't the continuity there to pull from when you're saying, all right, guys, figure it out. In all of these games, he finished this one with 2 timeouts in his pocket. In the last game, before they go to overtime, he had 2 timeouts in his pocket. And it's just like, Darvin, your hands are right there. Pull one out. Pull a timeout. You got it. You're right there. And it's just like it's maddening to watch this coach approach this situation without an understanding, it seems like, of the actual situation. It was wild.
Yeah, so again, just 80 finishing with 35 minutes. That's just really rough in a do or die game. And Anthony, maybe they just thought, like, we have the game 6 in our pocket, and give Memphis some credit. Came out with the desperation, came out ready to take this one. But yeah, it's really tough to like not put the rotations on him, because that's the one thing he can control, is like who comes in and out of the game. And I think there's too many all bench lineups. I think that's also the issue. These like
or mostly
forward
bench lineups, even.
mostly bench lineups with LeBron, right, as the one guy, or even we subbed AD in, but he came in like for LeBron. So like the run, that's why the run ballooned, right? So it went from to 10, AD came in, but LeBron went out, and then Troy Brown, I think, came back in as well, or he was in already.
Of course he did.
And then and the run ballooned to like to the 28-2 that you're talking about, and that was game. Like that was, you weren't coming back from that. They cut it down. I remember, I think the announcer was like, they cut it to 19. I'm like, oh man, come on. Like it was like 6 minutes left. But yeah, look, Memphis isn't, better than I think we won like these starting minutes. Just that bench got killed. We tried Wenyan, who I thought was okay. Like he was a -5 in 8 minutes. But
Mm-hmm.
Beasley, almost impressive. -23 in 11 minutes. Like that's you got
Yeah.
you got destroyed in that time. Troy Brown -26 in 11 minutes. So the game is in that 10-minute, it got put in that little 10-minute mark right there. Other than that, you could have won this game. Even LeBron 5
Yeah.
for 17, 1 for 9 from 3. I think he's now like 3 for 22 from 3 in this last 4
Yeah.
games, which
Shooting like 11%.
so that means he's gonna hit like his next 10, right? That's how the regression works. Like he'll
Mhm.
be back at like 44% by the end of
In
game.
practice, yeah, he's going to shoot really, really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about LeBron. His first 2 3-pointers on the night, one from the right wing, one from the left wing. Neither of them looked like with any rhythm whatsoever. Like no confidence, no rhythm. It was kind of flat foot. And, a lot of people are saying that has a lot to do with, they just played overtime and then they traveled and then they played again. And I think that's probably a factor too. But also, he shot really poorly this year by his standards. Like, he hasn't been a very good jump shooter this year. And, he stepped to the free throw line. And you don't often see this from LeBron, but he missed. Well, you do see him split pretty often. But, like, when he split it, he kind of like stepped away from the line and was just like kind of shook his head, and you could kind of tell like he was just kind of like second guessing. Every so often, as a shooter, you'll have these games where the ball just doesn't feel right in your hands. It doesn't leave your hands properly, and it's not something that like you could explain or anything like that. It's just it's not a scientific thing. It's just one of those games, and I think LeBron had one of those games, and I think he allowed that to kind of seep into the other aspects of the game. And that was the thing that I really liked about Game 4, was that he didn't shoot very well in that one, but he found another way to impact the game. And in this one, though, he didn't shoot very well, and then he also didn't, hustle. And he wasn't alone. All of the Lakers, anytime a shot was going up for Memphis, they were all just kind of like flies flying, kind of floating towards a light bulb. They're just kind of, ooh, the ball. And then as this is happening, Tillman is crashing and Jackson is crashing. Sometimes Ja was crashing, and the Lakers just weren't putting bodies on anybody. And yeah, it was just, and look, you look at the score, you look at the final score, 116 to 99, and that's pretty indicative. Like when the Lakers don't play well and Ham gets coached into a closet, that's what this game is going to look like. Even still, though, like you said, the Lakers had their opportunities. So it's kind of insane that even given how poorly everything seemed to go, the Lakers still had their opportunity in this one, and that gives me some confidence for Game 6. Though that is going to be a terrifying day. It sucks. They play that one at like 9:00, so you're going to be sitting there thinking about it all goddamn day. And then the good news is nobody works on Saturday, so maybe we can all nurse our hangovers, whether it's a happy or a sad hangover on Saturday morning.
I hope to be. I better be previewing Game 2 on Saturday. That's better. What that better be what that is. Though for LeBron though,
Round two.
Round two. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But 5 assists, 5 turnovers. I thought this is probably. I mean, it's probably not true, but I thought that's like the worst first half of playoff basketball I've seen LeBron play. I like just watching him.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty bad. All the turnovers were like he was driving, just tripped. Thought that he was going to get the contact. And there were some plays where like, yeah, he might have got fouled, but Jackson just backed up and LeBron fell a few times and he just drove with no real purpose. He just drove to drive basically and threw some passes out of bounds and then went up really soft at the rim. And look, so 1 for 9 from 3 means he went 4 for 8 from 2-point range. 4 for 8 shots is not enough for LeBron from like 2-point range. I feel like there should have been a little bit more mix, a shot variety for him. None of those little fadeaways, right, that he was hitting in Game 4. None of those like mid-range kind of looks. There was a play where he cut to the basket and then was just scared to kind of go up to get swatted. So a lot of that was in his game, and just a terrible night. And I actually gave him an extra percentage. He's a 3 for 24 from three in the last 4 games, which is really terrible. So hopefully, he can that percentage goes up. I think, Anthony, it's too tough if like LeBron's not hitting jump shots or scared to take jump shots, not scared, but not hitting. Anthony Davis
Yeah,
isn't
not
a threat from
confident
the
taking jump shots.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis isn't confident taking jump shots. Vanderbilt also obviously is not a shooter. That puts a lot of pressure on your guards to really be volume 3-point makers. D'Lo, I guess, is just gonna have these 3-point barrages. He's just not gonna be consistently a shooter. In Austin, I thought Austin played well enough in this one. 40 minutes for him, a minutes
Yeah.
high for the team. So we need a better LeBron game in Game 6 and home crowd. I think we'll treat
Home
that one
refereeing, like, it's a factor.
little home
We can,
cooking. Yeah,
the one thing I've noticed that Memphis does, and I think it's really smart, especially at home. Like you mentioned, Jackson is really good at initiating some contact defensively and then backing away.
hmm
And the focus is so like honed in on what Jackson is doing on the contest that I think referees miss a lot of like extracurricular contact that happens on the way to the basket. You have a lot of reaching on the way to the basket and all that stuff. And like the other thing too, earlier this year, like right after the trade deadline, the Lakers free throw shooting went up, right? And I think that had it had something to do with Reeves just all of a sudden drawing fouls like Allen Iverson. But then
yeah,
like also the by swapping out Patrick Beverly, who wasn't shooting very well, Russell Westbrook, who doesn't shoot very well, and Kendrick Nunn, who was just broken, by swapping those guys out for D'Angelo Russell and Malik Beasley, and then Reeves hitting more shots, it spread out the floor. So you could really more clearly see contact when it occurred, right? That
hmm
contact was happening in space. It was one or two guys at the rim that if a foul occurred, you could see it right there. And I think one thing that Memphis has been allowed to do because Troy Brown Jr. can't throw a pea in the ocean, because Malik Beasley just keeps on getting fucking opportunities, and because like Jared Vanderbilt isn't a shooter, and because Rui, like even given how well he shot this, has shot the ball in this series, he's only getting up like 1 or 2 attempts per game. They aren't going to start selling out to defend him at the 3-point line. You're seeing a whole bunch of traffic in the lane, and
yeah,
it makes it hard to isolate any one foul as it happens. And in the regular season, you'll get the anticipatory calls, right? The ones where they see all
yeah.
that traffic, the ball barely gets to the rim, you hear the offensive player yell, and the referee calls it because of course there was a foul. But in the postseason, you don't get that as much. And so like when Lakers fans are wondering why it doesn't feel like it, or why it feels like it takes so much more to get calls for the Lakers than it does for the Grizzlies. One, the game was in Memphis.
Yeah,
Two, the game, just generally speaking, is officiated with a slant towards smaller players, and that's who's doing the driving for Memphis. And then three, in this case, it is so jumbled in there that I don't think referees can identify a single foul that they definitely know that they saw or who committed it, and they aren't making the call. And I think if all of the drives look the same, it's hard to isolate when a foul actually occurs.
100%. I guess my only pushback, like, AD was 14 for
So it's not
23.
100%.
No,
It's like
yeah,
93%.
93. Yeah, 93%. Well, like AD was 14 for 23, right? And to only get 3 free throws, like when he's not taking jump shots, right? That's all in the lane. That, like, for him,
Yeah.
at least a lot of it's in the
Hmm.
paint. Only 3 threes for him. That's really low. LeBron, 6 free throw attempts. Again, he took 9 threes. So I guess I kind of get that. I thought there was some contact there. And yeah, like you talked about it, the home cooking. I just want, like, I thought there were a lot of plays where, again, I mentioned the Bane one with Rui, where he just kind of bumped him, and then they're letting so much contact go on the other end. It just doesn't feel, it doesn't feel equal on both ends. And Ja got some, like, really, I don't know, we reached in from behind, and those are calls that they just have not been giving. Haven't, yeah. I see the comment here. I didn't get
I
hacked.
kind of disagree, man. I That was a kick to the balls to me personally. The outcome of that game, Darvin Ham walked into my living room and was just
Oh,
like Dave Chappelle stomping on my nuts throughout that game. Yeah, it was just a brutal. But yeah, in your case, for the sake of the point that you're making, Tinny, no, the Lakers did not get hit in the nuts, and it
yeah.
did not have to be reviewed.
Yeah,
So that's
let's focus on the
progress.
positives. That's the positive in this one. But yeah,
Yeah,
Austin 6 free throws led us with LeBron taking 6 as well. But I thought there's a lot of plays in there where you can probably call a foul on every possession on a lot of these because there's so much contact going on. But 3 free throws for AD, I think that's the barometer for him that we really look at. That and offensive rebounds. He had 4 offensive rebounds, finishes with a 31 and 19. Again, his floor and like ceiling to where he plays has been so up and down in the series offensively. But yeah, 3 free throw attempts. I think a lot of that was like there were some tough plays where you could tell that kind of gets you in your head, especially on the road.
yeah.
And even with all that, what makes this game so annoying to me is that we were right there. 1 point game. You keep AD in. AD usually plays like the whole third quarter.
The
We've
whole
been like,
third,
yeah, that's been our thing for the whole regular season. We
whole
flipped
first,
that in
whole
this.
third, few
Yeah,
minutes
exactly.
in the at the beginning of the fourth, and then he plays like the last 7 or 8. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. He finishes with 35 minutes. I mean, I get, he didn't play the last few because the lead was what it was, but that's just so low. I think we're LeBron, maybe we don't really get to 40-minute territory, but Anthony Davis, I mean, we're kind of in that by necessity and kind of the situation. We just if you don't have a backup center, AD's gonna need to play a lot. That's just the
yeah.
way it's gonna have to be unless you trust Wendy Gabriel, which we did tonight. And again, I thought he was fine, but 8 minutes, I just don't think this is the series for him. And I think when Jackson sees Wenyan out there, he'll get adjusted and start scoring a lot more efficiently. But yeah, this was a tough one to. It's hard enough to beat a 2 seed. It's harder when you beat yourself, and I thought we beat ourselves tonight.
The point on AD's free throws is kind of exactly what I'm talking about, right? Where yeah, a foul was happening on every one of his attempts in the paint, and they're all happening with like 3 or 4 Grizzlies around him,
Mm-hmm.
and like referees, I don't think in that moment are isolating. All right, that's definitely a foul. I saw. Wait, I don't know whose hand that was,
That's a good point.
and then like the other part of it too is like, once you let some of that contact go, you're now inclined to let it go for the rest of the game on that side of the court. Whereas, like with the Lakers, if your fouls are more obvious and they're calling the touch foul down there, if you're going to call one touch foul, you're going to keep on calling those touch fouls. So, yeah, I'm not here excusing the referees. I didn't think it was a particularly well refereed game, but like you know some of the issues that referees are having in that game are brought upon them by the lack of spacing that the Lakers spacers are supposed to be providing right now and aren't, right? Beasley gets in there and like again, he was open, I guess, but his first shot is like a deep three-pointer. Like that's how you want to open your game? That's like it's so wild to me to watch Beasley play and have him have no idea whatsoever about rhythm. Like I want to see the guy dance. I want to see what he like. I want to see what it looks like what this guy think rhythm looks like. I want to see him play the drums. I just want to see, play the bass. Like I just want to see what it looks like when he has to do something rhythm inclined because he's walking onto the court and he's just like Leroy Jenkins. It's just like every freaking time he touches the ball, it's going up, and it makes it so that like even the shots that he gets in rhythm, and like late in the fourth quarter, right? It was funny. He gets out there and he's getting wide open look after wide open look after wide open look. And guess what, Malik? You're missing those because you don't have any rhythm because of the way you approached your first 3 shots. And it's maddening to watch this guy play. And then on top of that, he's actively detrimental defensively. He doesn't rebound. He doesn't create for anybody. And at this stage of it, because of how poorly he's shooting, he's not even really generating that much gravity either. So it's just like, why are we still doing this? What is the what is the positive outcome here? It's not happening.
Darvin's trying to find the Beasley game, right? He's trying to manufacture the Beasley game, like whatever it
Yeah.
is. He's like, we're gonna have one. So whenever like all these misses are kind of to get to one Beasley game. But I agree. I think he's just providing
I think
nothing.
Michael Beasley was just caught. Um, I think he was just caught in China throwing games, and I kind
Wow.
of wonder if Malik was like, "Hey, Beasley to Beasley thing."
Michael Beasley, a former
They aren't
former
going to
Laker.
catch two straight Beasleys doing that.
Oh man, former Laker too, by the way, Michael Beasley. No, but
Yeah,
like I think with Beasley, they're just trying to find. And there was, we run still some actions for him, some flares where he gets open, but yeah, he just doesn't have it, and all his shots are tough. Doesn't get to the basket, doesn't attack closeouts, doesn't defend, and we had him on jaw a lot on his possessions. It just doesn't make sense. I think if you're gonna play Beasley, he has to play in those AD LeBron lineups. Like
yeah.
there's got to be
He
defense
did
back there.
the what was it, game
Yeah, game 4, I think or game 3. I forgot which one it
three?
was.
Game
Yeah,
three,
game
the
3.
one that the Lakers were up fairly handily in that one.
Yes,
You
yes. Game
know,
3, he played him in those. And then tonight we went right back to let's just see if this works. And Beasley, Dennis, Troy is just so small against a Memphis team that's so physical. And again, killed us on the boards and a lot of mismatches, right? In transition, you don't really have time to be like, who's our weakest defender? Beasley, go guard him.
yeah,
Backing up in transition, it's like jaw pushing it down your throat,
yep.
and Beasley's
And
like,
guess
I
who
gotta
Jaw's
pick.
looking for in transition too? By the way,
Yeah, exactly. Right, looking right for him. So yeah, I don't think he's playable. I want this rotation to be cut down. We played what, like 11 dudes in the real portion of the game. That's too long. That's too many. That's way too many. Memphis has cut theirs down. They played 8 dudes, and
yeah,
3 of them played like 13 minutes. Like we played 11 dudes in a do or die, situation. So that's too many. Let's cut this down. D'Lo can be more than 30, I think. Like D'Lo, I'd rather just play D'Lo in those Malik Beasley minutes. Get him, get
yeah.
him going. So, uh,
Yeah, I'm with you. I've been waiting for, and look, this was the knock on Bud, man. Like this was the knock on Bud that he just would not shorten his rotations. And you would have playoff games where Giannis was playing like 35, 37 minutes, and everybody's sitting there like, he's built like a, literally might actually be a Greek god. Like we're watching this guy. He looks like one of those statues outside the Colosseum, and you're watching it, you're like, yeah, I think he can handle more minutes. And yeah, I think like, look, AD obviously isn't in the same point in his career as Giannis was back then. And every single time AD falls, you have to hold your breath for a while. By the way, quick tangent. The point of the take foul was for transition opportunities. The whole fucking reason they brought that in was because they were committing fouls while the team was clearly in transition, and
yeah,
and like you had games being slowed down as like, to slow down the action, right? To make it less interesting, to make it less entertaining. But a foul that you take because somebody's like lying on the ground over there hurt, that's not the same thing. They were set up in the half court.
yeah,
AD was still kind of like making his way back. And it's so maddening to see like the league. We saw this with the grifting, right? Where they try to eliminate the grifting, and then they were like, "Oh wait, our guys are just Dame Lillard, James Harden, and Trey Young are sitting there short circuiting in front of everybody. We can't have this." So they went away from that, and like every year they really isolate calls that are supposed to make the game more fun to watch, and then by the end of the year, they just like don't know how to call those anymore because the rule of law was just ignored for the sake of who knows why.
yeah.
And yeah, the take foul that they called tonight was just horrendous. It was just,
Uh,
yeah. I just,
I,
it's one thing to miss like a judgment call, or like the Xavier Tillman, like he knocked the ball out of bounds and it was like right in front of a referee, and you're like, how do you miss that one? And that shit just happens. But like, to not understand the point of a rule, it's just, it's bonkers to me. I don't get it.
we had everyone back except AD. It was
Yeah.
it was
And
four
AD
on
was like
five.
walking back.
Yeah, and then even Jaw being like, "Take fouls." Like, are you serious? They're gonna give him
Yeah,
that, and they gave him the take foul. Bane missed the
yeah,
free throw at least, so
snitch behavior.
ball didn't lie at least. But yeah, that take foul was so strange. A lot of strange calls, and hopefully, these aren't the refs that travel to LA. Get
Yeah.
a different officiating crew for Friday.
All right, let's wrap up with confidence levels as this thing shifts back to LA Friday night. I would imagine moneylaundering.com arena is going to be pretty live.
Yes.
Um, yeah, how confident are you? I'm terrified. I am officially terrified.
Yeah, you picked them in 5. I remember that was your
I was
that was your
pissed.
pick.
I
It was
could have won. Like, yeah, I'm not going to say the number tonight. Just gonna.
um
I mean,
uh
my bigger bet was on the Lakers winning the series, but the bigger payout was on, because it would have compounded, right? I would have gotten the
right.
the
We got
Lakers series bet and guessing the game correctly, but
Yeah,
I'm not
but
bitter. I'm not bitter at
we got
all.
but like
Fucking
you say,
Darvin.
we got money for the MLE. Is that what you were saying? Like that was
Yeah, yeah. They might be able to like keep Lonnie. Fantastic.
poor Lottie in that situation. No, I picked them in 6. I think they'll go home and win. It's just frustrating that you could have had the time off, right? Because you're playing every other day now. You're
Yeah.
no more 2 days, in between games, and I think that favors Memphis, who I do think like they're playing so many minutes. I think that rest advantage kind of dissipates just in terms of how hard they have to play. And I'm so confident in our base defense. Like I think when we defend and we're in our and we can like not guard Dylan Brooks for a lot of possessions. And I think our base coverage is good enough. Desmond Bain went off again tonight, but they're all shots I live with that he shoots those mid range pull ups. He's not getting to the line. His threes are really coming in transition. He was 4 for 9 from three tonight, but like his makes were all on like broken plays, like you talked about us watching the ball and then offensive rebound. He gets a three, and then the other ones were in transition. Other than that, he's taking mid range pull up twos. I'm fine with that. I think our base defense is fine. I think our starters are good. And I think our defense on jaw and everything is set. By now, Anthony, game like 6, both teams know each other, right? Like the counter to the counter to the counter has happened. Like
Hmm.
all your counter punches are kind of thrown. I don't watch boxing or UFC or anything like that, but like I'm guessing by like the later rounds, everyone knows like each other's punches or however that works. Like I think like both coaches know what the other wants to do, and it's kind of
One
just who can.
certainly does. One guy definitely knows exactly what is going to happen and when. Yeah.
Well, our coach is up 3-2. Let's, let's at least, at
I
least,
think our players are up 3-2. Our coach is just along for the ride, sitting there with his
oh
hands in his
man,
pockets. I can't
oh
believe I'm
no,
here. Um, Big development though for Game 6 is Luke Kennard potentially missing
yeah,
it. He went out, only played 18 minutes in this one. In those 18 minutes was a plus 26. He I think game in, game out. I think it's because he's subbing in more often than not for Dylan Brooks. And I think that's really impacting his plus minus numbers because Dylan Brooks tonight in a game that his team won by almost 20 was a -7. So like Luke Kennard, if he can't go,
huge.
that's a pretty devastating blow for them. Their best shooter, somebody who for some reason the Lakers just like keep losing. Somebody who historically, by the way, like even when he was with the Clippers, killed the
Killed us.
Lakers.
Yeah,
So we'll have to keep an eye on that one. It's his shooting shoulder too, which even if he goes, that's something that might kind of continue to bother him. So that is worth noting. But beyond
his
that, though, man,
well,
yeah,
well, really quick on Luke Kennard, like him being in the game for some reason kills our offense too. LeBron goes to mismatch hunt him, and
yeah,
it just hasn't worked this series. Like he's just not able to get the switch, and to close the half. If you saw that, like he was trying to hunt Kennard, so yeah, that's a blow for them though. Jenkins put him in with like 9 minutes left in the second quarter, super early sub because they were just playing 4-on-5 on offense. That was when we were kind of starting to make a run. So yeah, that's a big loss for them. Yeah, he had the whole shoulder taped up, but I just feel
wrapped
like
and
yeah, wrapped, yeah, but with the Lakers' luck, he'll be fine. I think he's gonna play. I'm gonna.
No, it turns out he's actually right-handed and he's a better shooter with that arm.
He just switched hands. Like he
Yeah.
just decided to switch. Yeah,
There's
with the
zero
Lakers.
chance you know this movie, but yeah, The Princess Diaries, like there's a sword fight and they both start with one of their hands. And then one guy goes, "Well, the good news for me is that I'm actually better with my right hand." And then they keep fighting a little bit, and then the other guy goes, "Well, I'm actually better with my right hand." And they carry things out there. I'm
That's
guessing
the
you don't
no
get that
no. Wait, so
reference.
that's the Disney movie, right? The Princess Diaries.
I think it might be Disney. Yeah,
Okay.
maybe.
There's two of them, right? There's two Princess Diaries, right? Like there's Princess Diaries 1 and there's like
Oh,
a
you're
2.
thinking of the Princess Bride. I
There's
think
not
no. The
no there's
Princess Diaries is no. All right, I'm thinking of the Princess Bride,
okay.
and you are thinking of the Princess Diaries with Anne
Okay.
Hathaway. I think.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes. That's the
yeah.
same.
No, the Princess Bride is way better,
Oh,
significantly
okay.
better.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as Gavin is saying, Gavin Ilowitz, you killed my father, prepare to die. Yeah, but you won't
I've never
understand any of this because
I've never heard of that movie, The Princess Bride.
it's
So
an all timer. It is
okay.
legitimately one of my favorite movies ever made.
Is it before the Diaries or after the Diaries? Like did it
Way
come out?
before. I think
Oh,
this
way
was
before.
like
Okay.
early '90s, late '80s is when that was made.
Uh, okay. Man, I was so excited. I was like, I actually seen a movie that you're referencing here and
No,
you
I
referenced the wrong movie. I was so happy. I was like, I've seen this one. I don't remember that scene, but I was like, I've seen the movie. I
No,
know it
honestly,
well.
like I deserve some blame there. It's the
Yes.
Princess Bride. The Princess Diaries is the Anne Hathaway movie. It is the Disney movie, and there are two of them.
Okay.
Princess Bride is not a Disney movie.
Okay.
But yeah,
Nice. Yeah. So
you
I
you
get credit for
should.
that one.
That's a good one. Well, some credit. Well, yeah, all right. You correctly identified the movie that I incorrectly named, but you had zero idea whatsoever of the reference I was making. You're sitting there thinking like Anne Hathaway was like sword fighting with her wrong hand, and then switched.
I was like, that
Which
could happen. Like, I don't
I don't
remember
think
it,
that
but like,
happened in that movie.
probably not. But I wouldn't remember.
All right.
I haven't seen the movie.
I also share some confidence here, which kind of makes me nervous every time I get optimistic about the Lakers. Um, they carry out a Memphis Grizzlies and kick me straight in the nuts. But yeah, look, Jaren Jackson Jr. like tonight, he almost fouled out. Probably should have fouled out a few times over. Every time, like even if the Lakers got a rebound, he was committing those stupid touch fouls that he normally gets called for.
Mm-hmm.
And finally got called for one, lost his mind because they hadn't called it to that point. And in LA, I think you would see one or two of those called a little bit earlier while the game was still winnable. I think some of the guys will shoot better. At some point, one of Troy Brown or Malik Beasley have to knock down a shot, or they just don't play. And that's the thing that we keep on going back to is if they are, and clearly they aren't ready for this. Like this is not their moment, and it's pretty frustrating that Darvin hasn't identified that. And look, Darvin not identifying that is kind of what makes him the coach that he is, I think, because he is going to trust his guys to a fault, but it's hurting the team. Like it's one of those things that it wouldn't surprise me if LeBron said heading into game 6, like, hey, those guys aren't going tonight. We're good here. We just let us win this one. Because look, the Kings and the Warriors are playing right now.
Yeah.
It's a close game, 41-45 as I'm recording right now. That one's probably going 7, my guess. So the Lakers can still have a rest advantage if they take care of business on Friday, but you absolutely have to take care of business on Friday. You do not, you lose this series. That's it. It's
Oh
it's that
man,
simple.
blowing a 3-1 lead didn't even get into didn't get to my universe until you said that. I was like, wow, that would suck. That would suck.
Yeah, yeah.
I think Beasley has a better chance of just being completely removing than Troy Brown. I think Troy's at least defending. He just has lost all confidence, and we talked about this. A playoff series kind of it's different that your like space and how close the defender is and how they close out on you changes completely when you get to the postseason. I think both of them are kind of seeing that. Beasley is supposed to at least be a little less infected by it, by like just his shot diet in the regular season. But Troy Brown, you could tell, just has not been ready for these closeouts. And but I think he's at least been game physically, right? Like Troy Brown will
Yeah.
fight for rebounds. He
Hmm.
will. He had one really nice rebound today when we were making our run. Like he was being boxed out by two people. I think he's at least game for that, and they like him on John Morant in those second units. Not a great matchup, but Ham likes those that as a matchup. Beasley just gives you nothing on that end, and yeah, and Dennis also worst game of the series maybe 0 for 2,
Just
no
not
rebound.
a presence out there.
Nah, one rebound, one assist, minus 20 in 19 minutes for Dennis. Awful game for him too.
What do you think of like what do you think of because yeah, Rui got into some foul trouble in the first half, but still
Mhm.
like he didn't get in foul in the first half of the last game, and he had 8 minutes in that one. And
Yeah,
for whatever reason, Darvin has committed to going away from him. I really think it is kind of screwed with his rhythm too, Ruiz, and that kind of makes me nervous. But yeah, what are you watching there in that regard?
yeah. So I think like it's been the theme is that like Darvin doesn't want to play him and Vanderbilt together, right? So if Vando's playing in the like in a lineup that's doing well, he'll keep him out there, and he likes Vando on John Morant, so he tries to keep them together. And what that does is that impacts Rui's line minutes, and then once like the second unit goes through, he'll play Troy Brown. So Troy is taking his minutes as well. And yeah, that messes with Rui's kind of rhythm for sure. I thought they're starting to run him off more, at least from the 3 point line. You could tell he's kind of
Good.
there's
That
like
should be
he's
good.
yeah, and like he hasn't been ready for like you'll see this a lot, Anthony, where like he'll jump to kind of shoot and then realize like, oh crap, like I can't get this off. This is about to be blocked, and then he'll pass it as like a last resort, not as like attacking a closeout, as like, oh, the defender's a lot closer than I thought they would be. So a
Yeah,
little bit
he's
of
like
that.
in the air to shoot and passing the ball off there. Yeah.
Exactly. So he's adjusting to kind of, he's like, oh, wow, people are closing out on me, and he's not used to that. Like, this is like
Yeah.
the first time in a while that I think people are like closing out hard on him. And now and I think there's a counter there where he can get to the basket a little bit. But yeah, 4 for 8 for him from the field was efficient, but in those lineups that just got torched. And, but Ham has to find, like, obviously, I think the Memphis isn't winning 2 more games in a row, in my opinion, but I do think we need to find a solution where we can't just leave Memphis can't just be able to leave their starters out there while we go LeBron, Rui, and three smalls like that it's getting
Yeah.
killed, and being home is going to help that. But you either play, your starters more, or maybe Wenyon's the answer. I don't know, but that has to be found out for, because Memphis is going to do the exact same thing this time. They're going to try to tread water and then blitz you in that lineup, and that's where we can have a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, it's really frustrating again because it's something that like you and I talked about last game, right? Out coming off of the last game was like again, Memphis's number one advantage here. The thing that the Lakers don't have a counter to other than just going completely away from it is Memphis's guard play, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jaw is incredible. Bane is not at that level, but like, maybe a tier and a half lower. No Lakers guard touches either of those tiers. I'm sorry. Not right now. Maybe Austin does next year, but like right now, Russell doesn't. He might for flashes, but he doesn't over the course of 48 minutes. Reeves doesn't. Schroeder clearly doesn't. Beasley is a joke, and Brown is even worse, or is right there too. And this idea that you're going to try to go small to match up with that is just it's nonsensical. It is driving me insane because the Lakers clearly had that advantage and have had that advantage when they have stuck to being bigger and longer and more physical than Memphis. But for some reason, Darvin wants to keep going to these small skilled lineups that are just not as skilled, not as good as the team that they're lined up against.
Right. Yeah. And I also think it's the familiarity, right? Like you talked about, a lot of these dudes have just got here, what, 2 months ago? So he's going to try to play the dudes that have been here. And Troy and Dennis are one of the few that have been here all year, right? They're part of the getting us up out of the 2-10 hole and, surviving the terrible season that we had before then. So a lot of that is, I think Ham has a tough time being like, okay, now that we're in this do or die, we're going to, take away Troy Brown minutes or, lessens Dennis Schroeder minutes. 19 minutes for Dennis is extremely low compared to like what I bet Ham is used to playing him, right? He's used to like 30
Yeah,
minutes
it's
for
just
him.
that bad.
Yeah, so usually, he's at the 30 plus minute mark, and I think that's a tough thing for him to like now just go away from that. So I don't expect that to happen, but I think Beasley's minutes can be cut. We have too many guards are like I remember doing the rotation, we're like, well, some guard can't play, but Ham's like, I guess all the guards can play. But
Yeah.
like it should have been really tough to have Beasley in the rotation, and so I think he can be removed pretty easily next game. I don't think it's happening. I think
Yeah,
Ham's gonna keep trying to find
it's
him.
like James is pointing out here is that like when you go small, you want the advantage that you're trying to gain is
Escape.
ball handling, right? Like you ball handling skill, stretching teams out, and then piercing them at that stretched out stage. But because the Lakers can't shoot, because the guards that Ham is inserting into there can't shoot, you aren't stretching out the team. So all that's
Hmm.
happening actually is on the other end of the court, Lakers can't get a rebound, and even when the Lakers are forcing like a tough shot, it just turns into an extra possession for the other team because that's what you give up. That's the swap that you're trying to make there. Is you're hoping that you out explode the other team. You're so explosive offensively, and you're so flammable offensively that you're able to go on a bit of a run in short spurts. What was killing the Lakers earlier this year, right, was that they were doing that for like the entirety of the game,
Uh,
and it was just like you can do it for short spurts if you have the proper matchups and if you're making those advantages. But in this case, the Lakers aren't. They don't have the proper matchups, and it's
hmm
just killing them. So yeah, I really think like even I would take bad Rui minutes over bad Beasley minutes. I would take bad Vanderbilt minutes over bad Brown minutes, right? Like
You get the rebounding.
yeah, the floor with those guys is so much higher than with
Right.
the guards that Ham is trying to go with. And right now, like all the Lakers need to do is have their floor be slightly higher than Memphis's ceiling. That's all you need to do for game 6. That's all you need to do. It's just make it so that over the course of a game you are just better. You're not trying to blow them out, nothing like that. You are just better. And I think Ham is kind of has lost the plot in this series with trying to be so much better at Memphis's game when the identity was right there. Like it was it presented itself so clearly, and Ham was just like, nope. Kind of like the Lakers after they won a championship. The identity was right there, and everyone was
Yeah.
like, nope, we're good.
So, by the way, just I know we're closing out, but Mike Trudell, Lakers reporter, he tweeted out that Anthony Davis said that he'll be ready to play 42, 45, 48, whatever it is. I'll be ready in minutes. Well, I guess that's great to hear now. Like
I'd like to see video of that. Like Darvin's in the back just laughing. You idiot. What do you think this is? The playoffs? You
uh,
moron.
but a quote from Darvin Ham as well. He was asked about extending minutes as well. You're right. This is so Coach Bud. Like I feel like I remember exactly all these exact questions.
It played out. We watched it.
It's the exact same situation, and we're asking Darvin Ham, if he'll consider extending minutes for players in Game 6. He says we're gonna do what we need to do to get that game at home. Just feels so weird, like after all the Bucks playoff series to now to see Darvin Ham being asked the exact same questions like it was scripted.
And like they won a championship by extending those minutes. And Darvin just like, yeah, it was an outlier. I mean, can't believe that worked. All right, that is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lounge. Again, the Lakers win this thing man, what imagine? I'd be like $1,000 richer.
Other
Anyway.
universe.
Yeah, but the Lakers lose this one 116-99. This game, the series extends to 6. The Lakers play game 6 in LA Friday night. At 9 o'clock, I believe, is the tip off. So if you guys had Friday plans, we're all in this thing together. The plan right now is to go live after that game, as per usual. If they lose that one, I think it goes right back to Sunday, right? They play again
Yes.
on Sunday in Memphis. If these
Hmm.
motherfuckers spoil my Succession plans, like I'm
You're what?
telling you,
I've heard of the show. I've heard of it. I've heard it talked about on the timeline. Yeah, I've heard of
it's
the
like
show.
it's like legitimately one of the best TV shows I've ever seen, and you have zero plans whatsoever to watch.
During the playoffs, you have time. You're moving your schedule around for a TV show during the NBA playoffs. Like
No,
even if
I'm
the
saying
Lakers
like
don't.
no, I would have to move my Succession plans around
Yeah, but
to
there's
be
other
able to.
games probably going on. Like
Oh, I don't care. No, not not more than Succession. No.
Warriors Kings would be Game 7 on Sunday. I think if they get
Well,
to that.
then if that's the case, then I would maybe consider changing some stuff or bringing out a second TV.
That's so crazy to me. Like I don't think I've had to watch anything that hasn't been basketball in like weeks.
18 years.
Well, at least
How old are
now,
you?
like
You're
there's
24, right? So, like, I just picture like most kids have like Coco Melon for them, and you're watching like Magic Johnson highlights when you're like 2 years old.
right.
We'll
Yeah.
talk to you guys. We have a lowdown coming up later tonight. We have Aaron and me talking tomorrow on the Thursday episode here of the Lounge. Make sure you guys are checking out All Access Lakers, where Raj is watching these games live. I will be on there, I believe, tomorrow night with Aaron, and either Harrison or Trudell. Usually one of those two guys also stop by. So check out that as well over on Playback. And yeah, way to go, Lakers. Fantastic.